Hi, this is CHORDimist, Max for Live MIDI effect, created by South Korean-based developer Leestrument. CHORDimist is a chord generator, an advanced arpeggiator, and much more. If your chord progressions still kind of sound boring despite all the available tools, this Max for Live device might change everything. And I will explain why it might be worth the asking price. There is no comprehensive manual for the CHORDimist available, so I'll try to do a tutorial along the way. If you are interested in some particular features of the CHORDimist, feel free to use the chapters down below, as well as that subscribe button. Also, if you already got CHORDimist, you may download the presets I used in this video from the link in the description. First of all, a quick overview. The setup is pretty straightforward for Ableton MIDI devices. CHORDimist sends MIDI to my e-piano patch. Here we have a drum rack-like panel for building our chord progressions. Clicking on those squares will not trigger the chords, you have to play them on your MIDI keyboard. I can easily rearrange the order of my chords and change the color of each square as I see fits. By default, all the black squares will trigger the init preset. Copy will duplicate an existing chord to the next square, which can be useful. I can assign the chords to those squares from this chord pool. Almost every chord type is available. Presets will give you access to the Arpeggiator presets. As you can see, pressing on the preset titles change all the Arpeggiator settings. And there are a few interesting ones with some pitch LFO action going on. Unfortunately, you can't save your custom Arpeggiator presets, but I'll show you some workarounds later on. Here you can modify your chord voicings in a few different ways. We can program our own chords or edit included presets on this little keyboard, so we are not limited to the default chords from the pool. And finally, here goes the mighty randomization section, which can function as a chord progression generator, but more on that later. Let's take a closer look at the chord pool. All the usual chord types are expertly pre-programmed, including complex extended chords. We can assign any chord to any root chromatically, so we are not limited to any scale. All the chords are grouped into 5 categories: major, minor, dominant 7th chords, with a lot to choose from, half diminished, and diminished 7th. All represented from the simplest to the most complex extended version. And by design, only the best sounding tensions are available for each chord quality, so you don't have to worry about music theory pitfalls. And here is the main difference between the CHORDimist and many other chord assistant plugins based on the chord scale theory approach. CHORDimist allows you to mix and match chords from different scales and at the same time helps to avoid some really bad sounding extended chords. This is E minor from C major scale, and I have to raise that flat 9 to make it sound good. And the CHORDimist is helping you out in such situations. Chord voicings modifiers. Here you can modify the default chord voicings found in the chord pool. The top third will create a beautiful guitar-like chord voicings, and it will sound the best with the 4-note 7th chords. Let's go back to a simple triad. Open means that notes of the chord are assigned across a range wider than the octave. And yes, those are nice, open-sounding chords. But wait, there is more. Comping. Let's go back to our triad. Comping means losing the chord's root note. The root is reserved for the bass. Inversions, then the same chord notes changing their positions. It is a pretty simple but powerful concept. Once again, inversions will work the best with 3 or 4 note chords. And you can get mixed results with the complex chords containing 5 or more notes. The self-explanatory transpose. The stack will duplicate the same notes over the octaves, and it can be useful for creating arpeggiated patterns. For example, CHORDimist init preset already has stacked notes. Clicking on the stack title will activate all the stacked notes on the keyboard. And now you can edit those. To undo stacking, click on the chord symbol of the chord you are editing. Randomization is one of the most exciting features of the CHORDimist. Let's start with the major 7th chord, and now I will randomize the roots. Pressing just one key, I already have some nice chord progression. I can choose the chord types I want to randomize. For example, hitting the dice with the capital M will randomly trigger only the major chords. The dice with the lowercase m will do the same, but for the minor chords only. The dice with the number 7 stands for the dominant 7th chords. Flat 5 means half diminished. This one with the 0 stands for the diminished 7th chords. And this one will randomly pick the chord from the entire chord pool. And here comes the fun part. I can create an endless stream of chord progressions by engaging the root randomizer and the chord randomizer together. Not everything will work out smoothly, but indeed I'm finding something useful every time I hit the record. I'm just setting the markers when I hear something interesting. Bear in mind that we can randomize chord modifiers as well. To disable randomizers, hit the dice with the cross. Another cool way to use randomizers is to set the random conditions to just one of the chords in a chord progression. Here I have a simple 3-chord sequence, and CHORDimist will help me to find chord number 4. This one sounds interesting. Also, I can limit my choice to the diminished 7th chords only. Arpeggiator. Arpeggiator on CHORDimist is a very unusual beast. First, we have one-shot mode. No matter how long I hold the key on my MIDI keyboard, the chord duration depends on the duration sync value. In sustain mode, I can freely control the duration of the chords just by playing any rhythm on the keyboard. Now I will increase the rate parameter to check out the ARP mode. ARPS means sustained ARP, and it works just like a sustain pedal. Also, we have here the direction panel, and I'll engage the stack to give you a better demonstration. So, we have the usual ARP up and down. Root up to the highest note and halfway down, and few more variations. Random. The most musical ones. Root up to the highest note, then random, and so on. Interestingly, many parameters here are randomizable by those gray bars, so I can randomize the rate and duration to give some human feel to the ARP patterns. Control over velocity. Skip just does what expected, skipping some notes. Perfect for the generative music patterns. Amount controls how many notes will be triggered each time I press the key. Instant clavinet vibes. And finally, quite an interesting groups panel. Here I can create 8 custom Arpeggiator presets, and I can send any of my chords to one of those 8 groups. And I can freely reassign the groups. Pitch Bend LFO. Clicking on this little pitch bend title, we enter Lo-Fi heaven. Plenty of LFO shapes is available. The usual depth and rate parameters. And their unusual knobs for adding random depth and rate values every time I press the key on the MIDI keyboard. Skip. The pitch bend LFO will sometimes skip despite the key is pressed down. We can edit and create our custom LFO shapes. This will randomize parabolic shapes every time I press the key. If you hear something you like, disable randomization here. Even crazier randomization option. This will retrigger LFO from the beginning of the cycle for extra glitchiness. We can loop the LFO here. And here is an indicator of pitch bend LFO activities. Now, how about saving the patches? You can save current device settings as a preset. Verdict. So, this was my take on the CHORDimist. Can it be improved? Yes. There is no MIDI import or export. I would like to have more choice of chord voicings, especially for the most complex chords. And I would add a randomization condition to limit chord complexity by 3, 4, 5 or 6 note voicings. But I can happily live with all those limitations because there is no other plugin that does what CHORDimist can do for your chord progressions. And the absence of the audio units or DST version of the CHORDimist is just tragic.